Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Robin Bradley is dropping.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today, folks, if you're into sales, man, do I got a treat for you. Spencer Lodge, what's happening, brother?
Good to see you, mate. How are you?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins. How about you?
Yeah, epic. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Very well indeed.
Good. Now, folks, if you guys haven't heard of Spencer, he's got a sales and training organization. He's a sales leadership trainer, keynote speaker, author, founder of Make It Happen University, and a podcast host, currently based in Dubai, correct?
Indeed I am. Yeah, I'm in Dubai.
How do you like Dubai?
Well, you know what? I've lived in 10 different countries over the last 27 years, and I've been here 15 years, which means I've lived here longer than anywhere else in the world. And you know what? It's not a difficult place. We don't have income tax to pay. We've got a great airport. We can travel everywhere. It's safe. You can leave your keys in your car of an evening. You can go about your business easily. So there's a lot of positives about this place.
I like the Make It Happen University name. Is that because, you teach people how to make it happen?
Basically, yeah. I teach people how to make it happen. I come from a very frustrated place of watching lots of salespeople fail miserably, not get the training that they need, not get the support they need, and think that they're going to be able to be successful without it. And it doesn't matter how good your attitude is. If you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to fail.
In your book, Making It Happen, the Ultimate Guide to Selling, right? Is it for sales folks or anyone, CEOs, team builders? Who's it for?
You know what? It's for everybody. You know, you might know this as well as I do. Every time you go into a company that has a team of salespeople, no matter how big it is, whether it's 100 or 1,000, what you find is the problems 9 times out of 10 don't exist with the salespeople alone. The leadership tend to play a part in messing things up, and then the people above the leadership, the people that own these businesses, seem to play a part in it as well, but they don't take responsibility, and they need to learn just as much as anybody else does. And so I try and lean into giving people as much support, advice, but just getting some home truths out there. I mean, you do this quite a lot, Brad, so I see it very similar. You know, it's that people aren't willing to accept the truth. They're not willing to accept the reality of the situation when they're in their ego-inflated places within their organizations, because they've been either fed the brown nose story by a lot of people working for them, or they've had an element of success in their life before, and they think that's it.
I hear a British accent, yes?
I'm from the UK, originally from London, yeah. So
you grew up in London, correct?
Yeah, grew up in London, left England when I was 23, went to work so I rang Xerox, taught me how to sell. So I was a trainee salesman down at one of those places. You know, I learned to make 100 cold calls, 100 door knocks every day. My boss said to me the first day I was doing it, he said, Spencer, he said, I want you to go and find 99 no's today. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, just go find 99 no's. And so I went and I got to the end of the day and I said, here's 99 no's. He's like, gave me a high five, said, well done. I was like, what's that? And he said, you've got to get the no's before you get the yeses. When you're young and when you're learning, you've got to understand what rejection means. So rejection is part of the game. So go find me another 99 no's. And so what happened is then a yes came, and then it went 99 to 1, and then 2 yeses came, which meant essentially it was 49 to 1, and it started working in my favor. But because rejection didn't bother me, it was just bouncing off me because I had to seek the no's, I had to seek the rejection. It kind of, it stopped me being scared of the telephone, being scared of, door knocking, cold calling and stuff like that. And that was back in the late 80s.
Well, why did you leave England in the first place?
You know what? It's really quite funny. So I was like a 19-year-old kid. I was earning what you would call maybe $80,000, $90,000 a year. Thought I was pretty good at what I did, but I was spending more than $90,000 a year. And so I wanted to work a way where I could earn more money than I could spend. And I sat down with this old Irish guy in my office one day, and I'm like, how do you make more money than you can spend? He said, the only way to make more money than you can spend is to work with money. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And so then I found this job that they were offering in financial services in Hong Kong. So I went for the interview, And they said, look, you're too young, you're 23, you need to be 25 years old to get into this industry, so no chance. So I went home and sat with my folks that evening, and I'm like, do you know what? They rejected me. I can do that job. And so my mum just looked at me. She said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I got back in the car the next morning. I drove back to the office of the company. I sat outside in reception waiting for the CEO to come. He came 4 hours later and he said, what do you want? I'm like, your recruitment people won't give me a job. I just want a chance. And so he sat down with me in his office, had a cup of tea with me. And there was this really bizarre coincidence during the conversation that we found out. And my grandfather had just had a stroke and was in hospital. And his father was in hospital after having a heart attack. But not only that, they were in the same hospital. And so he said to me, literally on a whim, and remember, this is like 1993. We didn't have all the internet opportunities to buy airline tickets and stuff like that. He said, you need to be in Hong Kong in a week's time. And I'm like, shit the bed. And so I raced home and I'm like, well, I've got to buy airline tickets. I've got to do all this stuff. And it was a commission-only job over in the Far East. And I did that commission-only job. And I remember I had 2 credit cards. I had a Visa and a MasterCard, and they had £1,500 on each card. And I got to the end of the month, and this was before we had emails and stuff. And my mum sent me a fax, and she said, I've got these credit card bills through Spencer. She said, you don't want to have those credit card bills over there, and you can't pay from over there. So shall I pay for you now? And then you can pay it when you come home. And I was like, oh, yeah, hell yeah. Because it gave me another £3,000 so that I could live until I started earning some money selling.
So Hong Kong, how different was that, like, as a culture and environment? Everybody's obviously walking around. That's a big city, expensive from what I hear.
How was it? You know what? I got to the office on the Friday morning, and my boss said to me, look, you just arrived, you're going to have jet lag and stuff. Go take the afternoon, take a look around the city, come to my place for lunch on Sunday. So he gave me his business card. And so I went off, I walked around the city, and I remember going into my hotel room that night, and I just sat there and started to cry. I was like, what have I done? And so I phoned up my mum. I'm like, Mum, this is crazy. I shouldn't do this. You know, this is a bad decision. And she said, you've accepted a job, and you are going to try your hardest, and you are going to give it at least 3 months. And if in 3 months' time it doesn't work, buy a ticket, come home. But until 3 months' time, you've committed to it. They're training you. You have to stay there. And great advice, you know, because I stuck it out. And then after 3 months, it was fantastic. You know, I'm a young kid. I'm 23 years old. Bright lights. There's loads of stuff going on. Crazy, noisy, smelly, you know, bustling city. And it was just feeding me completely. And so I had a whale of a time. And yeah, now I started to earn good money. And then I never looked back.
Are you familiar with Steve Sims Blue Fishing?
Steve Sims Blue Fishing.
Yeah, his name's Steve Sims. You familiar with him?
No.
You should have him on your podcast. Good bloke. You guys talk a lot. He was a bouncer in London, and he kind of told me the story where he basically went to Hong Kong to be a financial advisor, slipped in, wasn't qualified at all. And now that you're telling me this, I'm thinking, like, where are these growing up, I never saw any opportunities to go to Hong Kong and be a financial advisor. Why were they picking people out of London?
Because back in those days, even to this day, to some degree, British people are seen to be kind of sensible and trustworthy. So when it comes to dealing with people's money, the kind of like the international expatriate population around the world trusted the Brits. And a lot of these products came from London. A lot of the investment vehicles were from London. And in the States, the rules are very different. But the products came from London. So people from Europe, and South America, wherever it was around the world, they had the opportunity to use these products in tax havens like the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man, Luxembourg, these types of places. And so it was kind of synonymous with the language we spoke and the places that we geographically knew. And so that's how, and Hong Kong, remember, was a British territory as well for many years.
Plus your accent makes you automatically very trustworthy. Seems like anyone with a British accent sounds intelligent, even though they may not be. Well, again, there is. Go ahead.
There's as many intelligent and unintelligent people in our countries, both our countries. So, yeah, I can't comment on that.
The old British accent always elevates the intelligence level, and then the Southern accent, which was close to what I have, seems to lower the intelligence. Now, it's not true, obviously. However, perception in a lot of cases is reality. Sometimes you hear someone be like, well, shit, I'll get up in there and go over there and knock their deer. It's like, man, that hillbilly's stupid, just from the accent. And then, the same person could walk in and sound like you, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, impressive. So maybe the people in Hong Kong were smart enough to realize you got to build trust to sell products. Do you agree with that?
100%.
Okay, so you were a young buck. You went over there, bright lights, big city. After 3 months, it was awesome. How long did you stay?
So I went from Hong Kong then to Thailand and then to Malaysia. And so I was in the Far East, I think, for 3 or 4 years. And then I moved across to Brazil in South America. And we literally looked at a map one day and it was like, where can we expand the business? And I was looking at this, literally a map folded out on the boardroom table. And I just said, well, what about South America? And it's like, well, none of us had ever been there. There was no connection with the UK. And I remember I arrived in Brazil and I'm like, come on, we've got to give this a go. And then trying to convince Brazilians to invest their money in an island called the Isle of the Man, that was in the Irish Sea next to a country called Ireland. It's just crazy. It was literally like, are you kidding me? But at the end of the day, there were a lot of people over there, a lot of Brazilians and a lot of expats over there that had, great incomes and great disposable incomes. And that was perfect for our business.
So when did you get out of that?
So I still own a wealth management business now, but I got to a point in 2013 or 14 where I just started to think I'm over this. I've had enough of this. I've done it for a long time. And so, and I was known in the industry for being the guy that was the most successful, but also I was the guy that was training most people. And I really got a kick out of helping people grow. And so it was a big buzz for me. And so it's like, how do I create some form of a training business? And bear in mind, I was earning a lot of money. So to earn a lot of money and then to go to a completely different industry and start from scratch, it was like, that's a big step. But I thought there was an opportunity. And so I started offering training services. Companies wanted to pay me. But the trouble is with training, you go in and you do a, 1, 2 day, 3 day training course for companies. What actually happens is they're on fire for a week, but a week later they go back to their habits and their behaviors, and you've earned money, but you haven't really had that much of an impact. So that wasn't for me. And then I decided that I was going to create an online platform. I know you guys do this kind of stuff, but I went and I recorded 450 videos, not one day, over a course of a few weeks, got those videos put together in some form of format, loaded it onto a platform, and then started to sell that platform. And then what actually happened was really sad for me, because I don't know about you, but I really need people around me. And I had this e-learning product. And so people were buying it, but there was no engagement. There was no kind of like, what about me? And so I became a little bit disillusioned by that. And also it was a B2C model, which again, has its challenges. And so then I started offering the combination of the e-learning product plus corporate training that I went in, but on the condition it was over a period of 12 months. And so that I could help change the mindsets and the behaviors of the people that worked in those organizations. And so that's what I've done since in big part of what I do. And that's proven to be successful, but also it satisfies me. And as much as a lot of people say, well, why don't you just have your e-learning product? I need to be involved. I need to be there. It gives me my juice.
Plus it's fun, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So why Dubai? How'd you end up there?
So the financial services company that I was helping to build at the time, I was living in Amsterdam in Holland, and we bought a company in Dubai, and there was 3 of us that owned the business, and one of the guys was in Hong Kong, another guy in Europe, and I was in Holland. And it was like, I just got divorced, and I was going back to the UK every weekend to see my kids, and basically I worked all week, went home at the weekend, was a dad to 2 very small girls, and I had no life. The only way I was going to meet any member of the opposite sex was in the supermarket, and it worked a treat, with one of the kids strapped to my chest and one of the kids in a backpack behind me. The mums would say, wow, your kids are amazing. They're beautiful. Where's your wife? And I'm like, oh yeah, she died. Or stuff like that. And that was the only way I was meeting people. And it wasn't a great life I was living. So I moved to Dubai, and when we bought this company, and I came back to the UK every second weekend to see the kids. And then, and 2005, when I moved to Dubai, it was just starting its boom. It literally was. And so we had a massive opportunity, and we grew the business exponentially there like crazy.
So you're just picking these places off a map. No real reason. Just, man, let's go here. There's opportunity.
People used to say to me all the time, it's going to be different there. There's not as much opportunity there. People don't earn as much money there, all this kind of stuff. And everywhere I went, every country I went to just got better and better and better. You know, when I was living in Brazil, it's like, don't go to Holland. If you go to Amsterdam, the people don't earn the kind of money that you guys in Brazil are earning. The expats earn less. Well, I got to Amsterdam and I'd never seen opportunity like it. It was incredible. And so living in Amsterdam, though, the weather's the same as the UK. It's cold, it's miserable. And so the thought of going and being in the sun and by the sea had its attractions as well. And Dubai is a real expat harbor. It's a tax haven too. So,
well, I think in my limited travels around the world, I can tell you Amsterdam's probably one of my favorite cities of all time.
I wonder why.
Well, I mean, it was just cool. Like, it's just like, it's got the history and the culture with a little splash of modernism. You know, it was quiet. It was clean. You know, the trains were quiet that go right through the city. The people were, you know, more laid back and chill. I mean, there were literal bathrooms on the street where there were no doors. Was that the case when you were there?
Yeah, I was there from 2000 to 2001 to 2005. So yeah, it was like that. I mean, it is a very cool city. It's very cosmopolitan. The Dutch are very chilled and laid back. So it's they're good people to be around. And you're right, the architecture is stunning, you know.
You know, what's funny is I closed a deal, the Al Nabuda construction company, Al Nabuda in Dubai. So I went from Amsterdam to Dubai. And, you know, obviously when we were in Amsterdam, we partook in the festivities of smoking weed in the bars. And when we landed in Dubai, someone said, dude, if you get in trouble here, they'll take your blood. And if they find marijuana in your blood, you're going to jail for 4 years. And I'm like, holy shit. So I told you last time we spoke, I don't really like Dubai, because of that. Like, dude, the rules there are harsh. They don't play around. It was great, man. Everything was beautiful. It looked like a very upscale Las Vegas. And that was a long time ago. You said it's even better now. But, you know, aren't you worried about, well, I mean, I guess maybe you don't do anything like Singapore, dude. You go to Singapore, you get caught with like weed, they'll kill you.
Yeah, I mean, they have strict laws here. There's no, you know. Do you know what though? It's the first place I've ever lived where you haven't seen drugs or seen people doing drugs anywhere. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm 50 years old now. We're similar ages. It's not important to me. But what goes with the fact that there's no drugs here and there is like a low tolerance to illegal behavior comes a great safety of the place. You know, you can leave your keys in your car outside your house and no one's going to take it. If you leave your wallet in a taxi or your mobile phone, the next day you phone the taxi company, someone will deliver it with all the money back in it. And so there's swings and roundabouts to play. You know, people say, oh, you can't drink in Dubai. Of course you can drink. There's fabulous bars, fabulous restaurants. We have a fantastic lifestyle over here. We live outdoors most of the year. It gets hot in the summer just like it does in Vegas. But, you know, we've got the mountains to go to like you guys have. We've got the desert to go and mess around in like you guys have. So there's a lot of similarities. And it's just, and because Dubai, Emirates Airlines is pretty much the biggest airline or one of the biggest airlines in the world, you can fly directly to almost anywhere. And so it's a really easy transport hub.
Yeah, rules are a little bit strict for anything. However, how's business there?
Yeah, business is incredible. It's been a fantastic place to live over the course of the last 15 years. It's kind of, do people come to Dubai to be successful? They come to Dubai. It's like a boom town in many respects, like you've seen in the States in the past. It's a place people come because they want to win and they want to succeed. Everybody or nobody plans to live here forever. It's not like there's retirement homes here. People don't retire here. They generally go off to other countries to retire. But people come here to make money and build businesses and be successful. And you've got to remember that the population of the country is about 10 million people, 9.7 million people. But 2 hours away, you've got India with 1.3 billion. You know, you've got Pakistan, which is just 2 hours away as well. And so you've got an awful lot of business opportunities not far away from you. And guess what? Dubai's that place in the Middle East that everybody loves. And so the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, the Omanis, the Bahrainis, the Jordanians, the Iraqis, this is where they want to live. The Indians, to some degree, respect, want to live here too. So, yeah, everyone comes here for business. It's honestly, I'm lucky enough to have lived in 10 countries, but this is easiest to do business in.
All right, so now let's get down to brass tacks. Let's figure out what makes Spencer tick when it comes to your sales training. Why is your sales training better than others? Or what do you think? Obviously, is it better than others? And more importantly, if I'm a brand new salesperson and I've never sold anything before, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you believe anyone can be a salesperson?
I believe that selling is a skill. I don't believe it's something that you're born with. I think that some people are, like with any industry, some people are likely to be better at it than others. You know, there's some things that I'm naturally interested in and good at. But I believe if somebody really wanted to be a successful salesperson, I believe you can teach the skills to anyone. You know, one of the greatest managers I ever had was a very humble, quiet, introverted guy. But he was a great salesman in different ways to the kind of like the loud razzmatazz that maybe people perceive of me.
So what do you teach someone that walks up to you and says, I've never sold anything before, but I really want to be in sales? Let's get started. What's number one? What's the number one thing you need to build as a foundation for a salesperson?
Well, first of all, we have to find out if somebody wants to be a salesperson. This is where a lot of companies go wrong. They're busy just employing anyone that's got a pulse, you know. They come for an interview. Can you say your name? Yeah, we'll give you a go. Especially on commission-only type roles. And so, first of all, I think you have to find the right people, the people that really want to be in sales, because they're interested in the subject, and they're interested just as a pilot would be interested in flying airplanes and an engineer building bridges. So I think you've got to find the right people. And then when it comes to training them, okay, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to get them to understand the importance of their work ethic, the importance of preparation, and getting themselves structured and organized. And really, you know, look at the best salespeople in the world. I mean, I know you lean in from a car sales perspective. Grant Cardone's a car sales perspective. I come from financial services. And so as far as I'm concerned, I always believed as a financial advisor, I was the fifth emergency service. And I say that loosely. No, I really mean it. You know, you've got police, ambulance, fire, then you've got the Automobile Association, then you've got people that do what I do, that stop people messing up their financial futures. Because most people in America, in Europe, in the UK, I could get to the age of 65 and they don't have enough money. And to me, that's just bang out of order for anybody. And so for me, it's stopping people making stupid decisions. And like it is with life insurance, as much as these things are, you know, are touted about as unimportant, talk to somebody whose husband has died, that's living with 5 kids or 3 kids and now got to pay a mortgage, or has got to pay for the cost of living for everybody when their husband didn't have any life cover, or when it comes to critical illness cover too. So for me, what I used to sell, okay, was absolutely essential for nearly everybody on the planet in some capacity to do something about. Now, does a guy that's got 10 million quid in the bank need life insurance? Not necessarily, depending on what his expenses and cost of living is. Okay, but does everybody need to secure their financial future? Yeah, everybody does, whether they like it or not. And if you go back to the past, 100 years ago, the Chinese and the Indians, they would send their kids off and give them a great education on the hope that their kids would then provide for the family in the future. Well, nowadays, if you ask a 50, 60-year-old person, do you want your kids to support you when you retire? They'll be like, hell no, I don't want to do that. So as a salesperson, I never thought I was selling anything to anyone. I just felt I was stopping people making stupid decisions. So it doesn't come from a place of being a salesperson. It comes from a place of delivering things that people need. Now, I've never sold cars. Yeah, I've employed loads of car salespeople. I used to go into all the Ferrari and Porsche dealerships and sit down with these guys. And I'm like, what's it like selling cars you can't afford to buy yourself? And they used to look at me and I'm like, how bad is that? You do a job where you can't afford to buy the product you're selling to people. And I'd take them out. And as salespeople, some salespeople in the car industry could make the transition. But also, for me, prospecting is key. Being able to prospect, you can be an average salesperson and an incredible prospector, and you can do well, okay? You can't be a great salesperson and a poor prospector and generally do well. So you've got to learn how to prospect. And I come from an era where we didn't have internet. We didn't have, lead generation online and stuff like that. I came from you had your 2 boxes on your desk. You had your A to Z and your January to December on the desk, the card boxes, and you'd be pulling them out and you'd be making your calls. So for me, prospecting is a real critical skill. And anyone that masters prospecting in whichever way has a fighting chance, because they'll always generate leads.
Do you have a program that's specific to prospecting?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that cold calling's from the past, and so I don't believe anybody should cold call. I don't believe it's worthwhile doing. I think the amount of time and effort involved in cold calling isn't a good use of time. I'm a big champion of referrals. I made most of my sales numbers, the big numbers, came because I created a referral system that was pretty much bulletproof if you used it the right way. My course says, I think I've got 26 different ways to get referrals on my online course. And so for me, okay, if you can master referrals, you can master prospecting. And it's kind of like you had 3 choices. Yeah, when I remember being younger, it's like you can cold call, you can go networking, okay, or you can get referrals. Well, cold calling, that's not going to happen. And networking, do I want to hang out with people at the Rotary Club and have that kind of like those ridiculous things where you stand in a room with a bunch of strangers and you have to make small talk? And to me, it was just like, sod that for a game of soldiers. What I want to do is I want to get you to introduce me to people that you know. And so by doing so, then I'm going to forever have a constant flow of leads that just keeps multiplying.
Well, what if you are just starting and you have to sell something to get referrals from that person, or do you just get referrals from random people?
Look, you can pick your phone up right now. And I know in the States you don't use it as much as we do, but we have WhatsApp. The rest of the world uses WhatsApp all the time. And so and most people have between 4 to 100 to 1,000 names on their mobile phones, on their WhatsApp. Most people have a bunch of names. You've already got people you can reach out to, and you don't reach out to them and ask them if they're interested in your product and service. You ask them if they know people, and if they're already in your network, you ask them if they know people. Everyone knows people, okay? Depending on what it is you're selling. Whether you're selling cars, houses, insurance, financial services, everybody knows people. And if you reach out to enough people and you ask them to help you, what you'll find is if you ask people to help you, generally there's a few people out there that will help you. I remember I moved to Bangkok and I met this guy called Roy Mickelson, who was this half English, half Danish guy. And I remember meeting him and Roy's like, what do you need from me? And I'm like, Roy, I just need you to give me 2 people to speak to. If you can give me 2 people to speak to, then, okay, I'll be on my way. And Roy sat me down. He took me to a jazz club and he sat me down and 2 people came in that were his friends, sat down. And Roy, lovely guy, he was in his 60s. I was only in my 20s. And he said to these 2 guys, this is Spencer, he looks after my money. Have a chat with him. And then I had a couple of meetings booked in from then and I was on my way. So I think that people, when they start out, I think they get in their own way because they're like, oh, how do I start? Where am I going to find my prospects? What am I going to do? And whether you've used Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, okay, and you've only got 50 people on each of those, that's still 150 people, isn't it? That you could reach out and ask the question to.
Taking good notes here, Spencer Lodge. I might have to reach out and see what your system looks like. I don't know why I look in this monitor. I look like I'm a 700-pounder today. You
look bigger than I saw you the other day.
I know. I don't understand. Like, why all of a sudden do I look this way? It might be the technology. They say cameras add 10 pounds. It looks like I got 5 cameras on me. But
by the way, none of your guys called me up like you said they would after we last spoke. And thank you for doing the podcast with me the other day. But none of your guys reached out to me. And you said to me, Spence, once they've reached out to you, if they can't close you, can I talk to you? And I'm still waiting for that call.
That's interesting. Well, I'm going to reach out.
There's a buying signal for you if you've ever had one.
Yeah, no, I'm going to reach out. I gave it to somebody and said, here, do a demo for this gentleman and make it quick because he's inquiring and he's already got a system. So reach out. And that didn't happen. That's interesting. See, this is why it's valuable. Even like, sales training is obviously important, especially ongoing sales training. However, systems and processes, I believe, are critical to a company's success. And I've been terrible over the years putting together systems and processes where your name should have went somewhere and it should have just flowed through a system and process that's double checked and triple checked and cannot fail. then you wouldn't be saying nobody called you. We could have already been doing business together. And now I'm looking in the freaking monitor and I look like I'm 290. See? Something's wrong with this. Today's not happening correctly. And plus,
people might have said if we did do business that you might have eaten all the profits.
Well, I'm done doing these Zoom meetings too. Like I don't like these Zoom meetings. Obviously, you're in Dubai, so I would make an exception for folks that are that far away. But man, this COVID-19, how's it going there with the COVID-19? Is it releasing? Is everybody open back up, or did it ever shut down?
Yeah, it shut down. So Dubai we had full lockdown for about 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks when we weren't allowed out the houses. And then the lockdown ended and we were allowed out during the day. And we were told to be back home for 10 o'clock. And now it's been moved earlier to 8 p.m. So we can go out during the day from 6 a.m. onwards, but we have to be inside our house from 8 p.m. onwards. And we have a religious festival here, Eid, which is the end of the holy month of Ramadan here. And so there's a 3-day public holiday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And so that generally people gather a lot, and families and friends gather a lot to celebrate. It's like their Christmas. And so they've done that, I think, to limit the people getting together too much.
Man, you're selling me on Dubai, but man, I still think, I'm always scared they might chop my head off there.
You would clean up here. There's no competition for you in Dubai.
Really? What would I do?
You'd have to talk to people like me, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't I? Well, I'm still debating because my problem is I'm not very intentional. I think people need to be intentional. When you want to do something, go all the way in. I'm not all the way in on anything except Lightspeed. Like Lightspeed, we're doing, obviously. But people say, man, your sales training used to be a sales trainer. You got the closer school. Why don't you go full blown with that? And I'm like, well. And then, hey, why don't you put on these events and why don't you start coaching people and mentoring people? I mean, you built a huge business. Like there's people out there that really need your help. I'm like, and I tinker with it, but I don't ever go all in on it. How would you help somebody that's indecisive be decisive?
Interesting thing you said. When I was in Bangkok, I remember the first deal I did there. I drove out, and Bangkok's traffic is some of the worst in the world. I remember drove out of the city 2.5 hours to meet this guy. And I even know the company name, Crown, Cork and Seal. And I did this meeting with him, and it's fantastic. And I drove back to the office and I did my proposal, and I went back to see him a few days later, and he did business with me. And I'm like, yes, off the ground, $5,000 commission. He's like, yeah, okay, really happy. And I came back to the office and I showed my boss the deal, and he's like, well done. He said, so you basically spent half a day on the first meeting and half a day on the second meeting. That's a whole day, right? And I'm like, yeah. And so he walked me to the window of the office. He said, what can you see in front of you? I was like, buildings. And he's like, and what's in those buildings? And I was like, people. And he's like, and how far away are they? I'm like, they're there. He said, so you've gone and done that. Well done for doing the deal. He said, but you could have seen 4 people in that period of time, or maybe 5. And had 5 meetings. So be careful how you use your time, and be careful how you commit your time. And when it comes to people being indecisive, look, at the end of the day, what's the problem that most people have? It's that they get in their own way, don't they? And they what's the term? The paralysis from analysis. And I think a lot of the people don't want to take risk because they don't measure risk in anything other than fear. And so I would rather make a decision and make a bad decision than not make a decision at all. And the reason I'd rather make a bad decision is I can always make a new decision. And so for me, it's all about decisions. Make a decision. If my decision is no, then it's no. If my decision is yes, it's yes. And I have to live with the consequences of that. But the fact is, you can make another decision very quickly. A lot of people think if I make a decision, I'm stuck with something forever or for a long period of time. And I just don't think that's right, And so when it comes to being decisive, everyone, depending on what the bloody decision is, for goodness sake, if it's decisiveness around getting a divorce, that's a whole other ballgame, isn't it?
Certainly is. So work ethic, organization, preparation, someone has that down. What are the hacks? Like if someone said, man, Spencer, just give me some tips. Like, what are your hacks? What are your secrets to being successful? Like, I already know how to sell. I read all the books. I went on Cardone's University. I freaking follow all the sales experts. I got sales down, making friends and all that shit. Okay. What are the hacks? Like, what are the secrets? Give me some secrets of Spencer Lodge.
I think number one, I've always been extremely competitive. And so if you said to me, you can be number one and have $100,000, or number two and have $500,000, what do you want to be? I'd go for being number one every single time. The money's never been a motivator or a driver for me. So that competitive aspect of my nature means I want to win, but there's no place I like to win from than being the underdog. And so I remember when I was younger and I was first year, 1999, I was the number one in the world in this organization, the biggest organization that was in our industry. And I beat a 49-year-old guy, and I've never felt a buzz like that. And so for me, that competitiveness means that I'm never going to give up. Okay. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how slick you are. Okay. I'm never, ever going to give up. Okay. So that's one aspect of me. I'm very clear on goals, and a lot of people poo-poo goals, but I think that's because people get goal planning wrong. For me, goals should never be set more than 90 days ahead. Lots of people talk about in business, write a business plan with a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, goal. And I'm like, why? You give somebody a business plan and you give them a 1 year period. You can't see the finish line. You've only got to see how the stock market works. Okay. January, the stockbrokers, they all accelerate out of the blocks. They all have a great Q1, Q2 and Q3, they slow down, and then they know they're getting their bonuses in December. So all of a sudden in Q4, it's like, shit the bed, man. We've got to get our bonuses. And all of a sudden the work goes in again. That's just in the stock market. And you can see that over and over again in lots of different businesses. And so for me, set yourself a 3-month goal, because if you set yourself a 3-month goal, you can then break that goal down into actual tasks, actual activities that you do each day. You can see the finish line. When you get to the finish line, if you've achieved that goal, then you can feel confident. You give yourself a pat on the back and you're like, hold on a minute, I've just done it. And so after that 3 months, you can set yourself another 3-month goal. It could be a bit bigger. It doesn't have to be crazy, just a bit bigger. Because what you've got to do is keep feeding yourself, okay, wins. You get to the first 3 months, you win, okay? Confidence, self-esteem raises. End of the second 3 months, you rise again. And if you keep doing that successively over a period of time, what you'll start to do is have utter faith and belief in the goal and objective you set out to achieve, because you'll break it down into a daily activity, that one thing you've got to do today, or those things you've got to do just on this one day. So that's important. And goal planning has to be based around something that matters to you. Okay, I've noticed a lot of companies set targets for their staff. And I'm like, why are you setting them a target? Well, we need them to achieve these minimum standards. I'm like, what, to hit your goal? I'm like, why don't you ask them what they want to achieve? Because some of them want to achieve way more than what you're asking them to. Some of them might want to achieve less, but help them achieve what they want to achieve, and you'll get far more out of these people. Stop telling them it's like, this is a minimum standard. This is nuts. But you've got to train. You know this. You've got to train the living daylights out of people. It's like, what happens when you join the army? What goes on in the military? They don't put you into training for a few days and say have 4 days off. It's like it's 16 weeks of hell, isn't it? So that you become indoctrinated into the system, so you could hold the guns, you can pull them apart, you can clean them, you can polish your gear, you can make the bed properly, you know how to do all the things out on the range and stuff. And so this goes intrinsically into their subconscious and not their conscious. And by golly, by gosh, does your conscious want to get in the way all the time? It's a risk management device. All it wants you to do is lay on the couch or the sofa, as you say, with the remote control on your chest, because it doesn't want you to take any risk. And so your subconscious really has to be really, really overruled here, and your conscious needs to push through.
So is this the type of thing you train on? Like if I were to join your Make It Happen University, are you working on my mindset? You working on my goal setting? You working on my sales skills? What are you working on in there?
All of those things. There's 450 videos, all of those things.
450 videos. What happens when someone goes through them all?
Well, you know what happens when they go through it all. They've forgotten most of the stuff. It's the same as reading a bloody book. They remember bits. You can't. You go through. You watch the video. You take the test. It opens the door up to the next video. And in each category, there's a number of videos. You take the test. You get to the end of it. Okay. And again, you've got to go back and do it again. The problem I always have with the online training, okay, is if you just give people the online training, some people will fully commit to do the whole course. They'll get to the end of it and think because they've done the whole course, they now should be superstars. But you know as well as I do, is training. I use a system, TMM, teach, monitor, measure, teach, monitor, measure. Not tell, okay, teach, monitor, measure. There's no point teaching and measuring. You've got to monitor. You've got to be there with the actions taking place. And so if I'm really honest, the most success I've ever had with any teams I've ever been involved with, corporate or whatnot, has always been my teams. Always the teams that I've built, because I'm there every day, okay, reliably every day. And when you're on people all the time and you're giving them what they need every time, and they can access you all the time, then you can help them avoid mistakes. So when they make mistakes, they can learn from it.
How important is product knowledge in your mind?
Depends what the products are. I think a lot of people, how many times have you met a sales guy that won't sell unless he knows everything inside out and upside down? It's like, to me, it's like, I don't care where the cow comes from. I don't care what it was fed. I don't care that it was massaged in Japan. I care what the steak tastes like. And so knowing the ins and outs of everything isn't absolutely essential. Okay. It isn't, because it's funny, we talk about investing. The amount of people out there, you take a Charles Schwab account and whatnot, or trading online, the amount of people out there that if you asked the average American, describe how a mutual fund works, they wouldn't be able to tell you. The average American wouldn't, the average Brit wouldn't be able to tell you. Now, if you say to somebody, you want to invest $100,000, okay, and you're looking to get a 6% return in the next 12 months, let's say, all they care about is getting the 6% return. Whether you went in there and you traded blooming penguins in and out of zoos, or whether it was on, an index fund with Vanguard, people actually, in the main, aren't really that concerned about that. What they're concerned about is, if you said I'll get 6%, will I get 6%? And so a lot of the time you watch a lot of people you'll lean into this. When I was a kid, my dad took me to buy my first car. And my dad's an engineer. And so we go into the car dealership and he's chatting away to one of the sales guys. And I went over to this car, this Ford Fiesta thing, and I lifted up the hood, you call it, yeah? And I'm looking at the engine. And the sales guy comes over and he talks about the engine to me. And my dad wanders over and he looks at me and he says, "Where does the oil go?" And I was like, and I pointed to where the washer fluid went. He went, "Shut the hood." And so it's like, well, I don't need to know about that kind of stuff. And most people, when they buy a car, don't really need to know that there's a double overhead cam, 16 valve, twin this, twin that, X amount. Could anyone driving a car know the difference? The average American know the difference between 250 horsepower and 300 when they drive the car?
Well, I mean, unless they're race car drivers, probably not.
Yeah, but that's not the average American, is it?
Yeah, or what the valve displacement is.
Exactly. The first time I learned about cars going wrong was when a timing belt went, a cam belt went, okay, and it cost me a couple of £1,000s to get a new engine in. And I was like, that was a great lesson in learning, a little bit about cars. But even to this day, I've got no interest in what's going on inside under the hood. I just want to know that it drives nicely.
What about in the boot?
As long as I can get my bike in, that's all I care about.
You want to get your bike in the boot?
We call it a boot.
What do you call the hood? A bonnet?
The bonnet, yeah. The bonnet and the hood. The bonnet and the boot, yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I was hoping I'd get some tactical steps that nobody knew except Spencer Lodge. But man, this is obviously, I agree, or I would have barked up immediately. What are your steps though? Like if someone's listening to this going, I have a sales team, how do I develop them other than hire you? Obviously join and train them, obviously, but are there any tactical steps or word scripts or tricks that the average salesperson wouldn't know that you've learned and developed, whether it's prospecting trick, closing trick? Like if I said to you right now, Spencer, here's $10,000, come teach my team in 1 hour session how to sell and close deals. What would that curriculum or agenda look like for that hour?
Well, your team clearly need it right now because they couldn't even be bothered to pick the phone up and call me.
I know they're fat and happy. They're sitting over there just making all the money in the world, apparently.
Not from some of the videos I've seen you. I watched an hour and 20 minutes of you the other day selling to that lady, and who had someone that she needed to make the decision with, that you went on this lengthy close with, and your sales guys were sat there, and you're like, "Come on, guys, close the deals."
Yeah, it's tough. When people ask me, because I don't go out and do sales training full time. I've got a little course and I do it to show people how to use Lightspeed and that it's possible. And keep in mind, I was doing Lightspeed before there were any of these other systems out there. So I developed a little thing to show people, here's how you do it. But in my opinion, a hack would be, you have to have somebody constantly doing the training and holding people accountable. It's good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. If you're not delivering good content with repetition, practice, and accountability, you're not squeezing all the juice out of the berry, if that makes sense. You might be doing well, doesn't mean you're doing as, like, some people will kick ass and they're up here at number 1, number 2, number 3, and they think because they're there, they're doing great. When in reality, if we had a crystal ball and realize, man, they're actually screwing up more deals than they realize. They could be doing 5 times better than they are. Okay, so now if just because you're number 1, does that make you great? No, it just makes you better than the other ones, right? Doesn't make you great. If we had all things considered, you're actually blowing many opportunities. Like, again, I'm sitting here, oh yeah, we're kicking ass this month. We didn't even call a customer that requested to be called, which is the worst of it all. Like, you're not someone that I said, hey, call and see if you can talk this person into it. You asked for a call and we still didn't call. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to have a go chit chat with those individuals. But tell me you got a 1-hour keynote. Somebody wants you to train on sales. Can you do it in an hour? I mean, because people say that to me sometimes. They're like, hey, come do my webinar, or come talk to my group. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, okay, talk about sales and closing. Tell them how to close deals. I'm thinking, in an hour, I can talk about the bullet points. I can talk about the structure, but I think the training goes deeper.
Look, I said to you at the beginning of the conversation, I can do a 3-day course with a company and I can leave and teach them a whole bunch of new skills that they need to apply to their business. But and everyone will sit there taking wonderful notes all the way through the session and be fully committed and be motivated and jumping around thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread. But unless that's practiced over and over again, it doesn't work. I use a very simple sales system. I have some really important rules that I engage with my prospect at the beginning of every meeting. After I've worked hard at building rapport in a broken down strategy, which again, most people are hopeless at building rapport. They just go into talking about product or service or whatever it may be. So I'm very clear. I start off with a rapport building exercise broken down into 3 steps. And then I have some rules. I have what I call my terms of business. And most people don't give this kind of stuff out. If you watch salespeople, a lot of the time they hold the prospect up here and they hold themselves down here. And it's almost like holding the Oliver Twist bowl. Please, sir, become my client. Whereas I'm going into my meetings and I know I'm there to do them a favor. I know I'm there. My psychology is I'm here to help you. So I don't sit there pleading. And so, you know what, if you've ever been to a law firm and you sit down with a lawyer never pleads with you. He says, right, this is what I can do. It's going to be $360 an hour or $650 an hour, whatever his hourly rate is. This is what you're going to get. He just tells you up front, take it or leave it. Because he knows what he can do can be valuable for you. And I think in sales, I'm the same way. It's like when you're selling a car, a house, or whatever it is, nobody goes into a car dealership if they're not interested in looking at cars. Okay? No, there's not one person that's ever gone into a car dealership, okay, because they're looking to buy a house. All right? Everyone's got into a car dealership. Even if they can't afford the car they want, they're looking because there is 1% of them is interested. 1% of their being is interested. You've got to bring the other 99% as a sales guy, but at least 1%. And if there's 50% interest, you bring the 50. If there's 80%, like with you and me telling you to get your guys to call me, there's clearly a big interest. Okay, you've got to bring the difference. So when I've as a salesperson over the years, there are rules. If we're gonna talk to each other, we're gonna engage. First of all, I'm gonna be a really good listener. I'm gonna make sure I pay attention to everything that you're saying, like really, and ask really good questions. But then, okay, once that person knows that I'm listening, I explain how I work, and I'm with everybody the same. And I say to people, look, I'm known to be a bit of a straight talker. I say it like it is. Now, would that be okay with you, or would you rather I fluff it up around the edges? And everybody says, no, level with me. And the moment you then have the authority to level with somebody, you then have the freedom to ask those questions. I sit down and people say, how do you say that to people? And I know for sure people have watched you sell, okay, and watched you train and gone, you really say that? You really say those things? But we do. Great salespeople aren't afraid to have difficult conversations, aren't afraid to say, can you please sign some paperwork so you can become a client? They're not afraid to say, with financial advice. I talked to a 40-year-old man and I'm like, you're married and you've got 2 kids and you don't have anything for your retirement apart from some token gesture IRA and some negligible 401k. Does your wife know that you fucked up your finances? Who's going to tell her, me or you? And so
neither.
But and they'll be like, no. I'm like, you told me to level with you. You said to me to be straight with you. And so when you come from a place of certainty, for example, with financial advice, there's absolute certainty based around numbers. If you want to retire on $50,000 a year, you need $1 million in the bank right now. If you want to retire on $100,000 a year, you need $2 million in the bank right now. So how serious are you about it? And so the process involves, like with everybody, the process involves being very focused on the value you can bring, very focused on building a relationship with that person, making sure that person understands. One of my lines is, look, Mr. Prospect, I'm going to take a good look at where you are today, get a good understanding of your situation. Once I've done that, it's going to become apparent to me the areas that you need to do some work. But hey, it's not my money, it's yours. If you don't want to do anything, we'll shake hands and we'll grab a coffee sometime. If you do want to do something though, that's when the job becomes interesting, because that's when you commission me to go to the market and find a product that does what you need it to do. But look, I'm not here to mess about. I don't want to waste your time or mine. If we agree today there's a need and we design something that does what you want it to do, and then I go out to the marketplace to find it for you, if I find it for you and you love it, I want to know right now that the next time I see you, we can go ahead and do some business. And does that seem fair to you, or do you have any questions? And so it's an approach where I'm trying to make sure that everyone's clear on every part of it. And it's like referrals. I have referral pitches and everyone can get referrals. And 99% of people that don't get referrals, the number one reason is they didn't even ask.
That's the number one thing I notice.
And it's like, why aren't you asking? What's the worst thing that they can say? I don't know anyone, I'm sorry. But they might go, yeah, you might want to talk to John or whoever it may be. And in financial advice, the same thing would apply. Look, Mr. Prospect, have you ever made cold calls when you were younger? Now, some of them will say yes, some will say no. Okay, have you ever received a cold call? Yeah. What was it like? Yeah, it was shit. Does it annoy you? Yeah, it does. Yeah, I get it. I hate cold calls too.
Why do you think people are like that? They don't ask for referrals. They don't follow up. They don't prospect. And then they basically, complain about how sales sucks.
Because they hold the prospect up here. The prospect is there and they are the lesser man. It's like, I don't know, if you refer me to a CEO of a company, and the CEO, I talk to him and he's like, Spencer, I'm not the guy that deals with it. You need to speak to the head of marketing, for example. Well, if the CEO refers me down to the head of marketing, I phone up the head of marketing and I'm like, right, John told me to give you a call. Your CEO said, give you a call. Head of marketing is going to see me. But if I go to marketing and he says, oh, it's the CEO that deals with this stuff. Okay, well then put me in touch with him. Oh, I need to ask his permission first. And they get all that kind of stuff going on. So you've got to start believing that you're at least equal to the person you're with.
I forgot to be dropping bombs, but I can't get over. Why do I look so freaking fat right now? Like, dude, I gotta go look in the mirror. Like, is this a trick? Is my team pulling a trick on me? Why do I look so thick? It's unbelievable. Spencer, I want to pick your brain a little bit more, but I know you got to go. I said an hour. It's almost been an hour. I appreciate it. I wanted to, again, extend my apology for nobody following up, but I guarantee if they don't call in the next, hour or text you, email you, DM you, I'm going to have them reach out in the next hour and schedule something with you. If they don't, just shoot me back a DM and I'll do it myself. I'm going to be in here on Sunday doing a little work. Anyway, you work on Sundays?
Sunday is the first day of the week. It's a public holiday here, but I'm working, so no problem at all. But I'll tell you what, I can make a deal with you. If nobody reaches out to me in the next hour after this finishes and we go offline, okay, I get a 50% discount.
Well, number one, they will, because I'm going to walk in there and make sure. But deal.
Okay.
Now, what's the best way to reach you? The email, the DM, or the phone number?
My phone number and WhatsApp is the best way to reach me.
Beautiful. And you know where I'm on WhatsApp. By the way, how do you find people on WhatsApp? Because I'm just getting into it. if anyone's out there listening and you guys don't have WhatsApp, I suggest you get it, man. It seems like everybody in the world is on it unless you don't have any international connections.
Everyone in the world is on it, a bit apart from people in the States. But yes, WhatsApp, you download WhatsApp, it will give you a code. Once you got it, then you add all your contacts on your contact list. It will go automatically in it and it'll add them all. And then whenever you add someone in your contact list, it will automatically add it on WhatsApp too.
Yeah, but I don't see you in here. Are you in my contact list, or did I put your phone number in the boot?
Well, why would you call it a trunk? Elephants have trunks.
Let's see here. Trunk. I don't know, man. No, I don't see you on WhatsApp.
No, that's probably because my phone number's not in your contacts. Give me your.
Right.
Hold on, I'll do it now. I'll do it now. Give me your number.
I'm gonna give it to you right after we stop. Otherwise, dude, it's gonna be on the podcast because I don't edit these things. I put them out real and I put them out raw. So I'm gonna ask everybody if they want to hear more about Spencer. Go follow him on Instagram at spencer.lodge, and I want you to go to spencerlodge.tv and kind of look for this Make It Happen University, because I have a feeling in those 450 videos, you're going to get nothing but fact and experience. I would equate Spencer, because we had a conversation last time. I was trying to be very studious and interviewatory, if that's a word this time, but we had a conversation last time. He's pretty much like the me of Dubai. See? Now, if I came over there,
I'm slimmer.
Yeah, if I came over there, I'd have to bump you over a little bit, but since I'm not, you're the me of Dubai. And for some reason, again, I look thick today.
It's all here.
I know. I don't understand. Like, my head looks like a freaking pumpkin today. I don't get it. And this is a freaking, sometimes like I'll gain weight. This COVID thing, I kind of stopped heading to the gym because they were closed, and, okay, I'll eat a few carbs. And so I kind of let it slide a little. And, my pants or have been my judgment, right? If my pants fit, well, then I'm cool, and my pants fit, but my face right now, I don't know what it is, but it looks like I'm retaining 100 pounds of water. I don't look like this. So dude, I am extremely confused by the look of this monitor. Does it look like it to you?
Yeah, you look completely different the other day.
Oh, dude, I got to go change shirts. Is it the shirt? What is it?
Anyway. I posted something today about our podcast on my Instagram, and there's a picture of you and I together, and it's clearly got a lot of Photoshop compared to what I can see right now.
No, dude. I don't do Photoshop.
You might need it.
I don't care. See, here's the thing I'll leave everybody with, okay? Folks, if you're worried that you're looking heavy, well, then go do something about it. Like, I'm right now, like, talking to myself. I don't care if someone sees me fat. I just took off my shirt to show this tattoo artist where I want to get some work done. And, I'm not real, toned up as I should be right now. And everybody was like, dude, I can't believe you took your shirt off. And I'm like, why? Like, what does it matter what everybody else thinks? I guarantee you, whoever's thinking, damn, he does look fat. Who cares? What are you going to get off the phone and not do business because I looked a little heavier than normal? Most people don't do that. But dude, it's crazy how many people fear what other people think, and it stops people in sales, it stops people in business, and it stops people all the time. I've had people literally not want to do a podcast because they had a cold sore, or they don't want to turn on their camera because their hair's messed up. And I'm thinking, dude, if you own yourself to the point, and believe me, we're all guilty. I do it just not as bad as everybody else. I pretty much got to a point where, like, I'm not going to pull out my junk, right, and act like nobody's standing around. I've got some couth, but short of that, I'm pretty to this level where it's like, bro, I don't care. But looking at this fat face today, I do care. It's funny. And you do, man. You're looking a little slim. You look slimmer than the last time.
Nothing's changed, man.
Nothing has changed with me. I guarantee you, dude. It was how long ago was it? A week? Couple weeks?
Oh, yeah. Last week. You lie.
Did you say you lie?
Yeah.
That's funny. What about hoon?
What's hoon mean?
What's July mean?
You're lying.
Oh, I thought you meant July.
Oh, right.
What was it, July or you lie?
You know you lie.
So how long was it ago that we talked?
It was my birthday was on the 14th. It was 2 days before, so the 12th.
The 12th of what?
July.
Really? Like that was like
May, May, 12th of May. It was my birthday.
I was gonna say
we
like,
with the wrong month there. Yeah.
You're starting to freak me out. Like, was it a year ago? Damn near. No, it was like a month ago at the most.
No, it wasn't. It was 9 days ago. It was the 12th of May.
Okay, so like a couple weeks, dude. I haven't eaten a cow in the last 2 weeks. Nothing's changed. It's either the shirt, the shadows, look, and then the shine. Like, see this shine? Like, what the hell is going on today?
You came straight from the club, yeah?
No, I'm going to work out from now on. Folks, listen, pay attention. This dude knows what he's talking about. He comes from straight experience. He doesn't try to feed you full of crap. He teaches you what's made him successful. Go check him out at spencerlodge.tv. Follow him on Instagram at spencer.lodge, just like it sounds, just like an inn up at the mountain or something, like Spencer Lodge.
An old people's home.
Where you you going this 4th of July? Oh, we're going to go up to the lake, hang out at Spencer Lodge. It's just like it sounds, Spencer.Lodge. And then obviously he's got a podcast. Mainly, what do you talk on the Spencer Lodge podcast?
You know what? It started off about business, but I'm really interested in people's stories and their journeys. You know, I had Nick Yaris on, the guy that was on death row for 22 years. I've obviously had Tony Robbins and people like that on the show. And I'm just really interested in hearing real people's stories about how they struggled and how they got somewhere in life. And so, you know, what's is it Dave Meltzer? I had him on the other day. Yep. So yeah, people like that. And I just want to know people's, and I hate bullshit. I hate all the bravado. I hate all the nonsense. I just like real people sharing their stories. And that's what I generally tend to look for.
Did you notice Joe Rogan just sold the rights for exclusivity to his podcast for $100 million?
Yeah.
Like, see, dude, that's like, listen, when I started this podcast, my whole goal was, man, I got a lot of people walking in and out that everyone would love to hear from. Let me put up a couple microphones and just start shooting the shit. There was no agenda. There was no nothing. It was just, hey, let's just start shooting the shit. And 9 times out of 10, when people are listening to our conversations here, people be like, oh, dude, so-and-so was dropping bombs. So I went and looked droppingbombs.com. And I'm like, damn, dude, it's available. Droppingbombs.com was available. So I'm like, there's a sign. I got a couple microphones. People started coming in to film their VTs. I'm like, hey, can you spend, 10, 20 minutes? Let's chit chat and, talk about some things. 20 minutes turned into an hour. Most, episodes are about an hour. And everyone kept saying I'm crazy. Now look, dude, I got over, I think 1.3 million downloads. I always joke and say, I got, 7 billion people listening. There's only 16 people in Zimbabwe that don't tune in. But I was looking the other day, it's million, and it's over 1 million people listening. And when I saw frickin' Joe Rogan, I'm like, dude, maybe I'm on the right track with this podcast. Folks, if you guys are looking to build a podcast, I'd do so too. Spencer, what made you get yours, and how do you get all those people on your podcast?
I first of all was persuaded to do it after this not wanting to do it. And I started in January last year. So I'm on episode 80 something. And then the Tony Robbins story, Tony was coming to Dubai, and I reached out to his management and they were like, no. And then I reached out to his publicist and she was like, no. And then I just was relentless about it and just kept going and going and going until I sent a video to him. He watched the video and he's like, who the hell is this guy? And then he agreed to come on the show. And so once I got him, I was able to leverage off the back of him. And it, you know what? I started off doing it as a prospecting tool, because you get the CEO of a big company and he sits down for an hour with you on the podcast. You've got his phone number. You've got access to him. You phone him up a week later and you say to him, hey, can I ask a favor? Can I buy you a coffee? I think I might be able to help your business. He's going to have that coffee with you. And so for me, it was a great way of prospecting at first. And then also what I was doing, I have to live my example. I mean, I use social media now. I'm no master at it at all, but and it plays such a big role in sales. And so I have to lead by example. And so if I'm telling people to start a podcast, I need to have one. You know, if I'm telling people to do things a certain way, I need to demonstrate I do that. But I tell you what, it's my favorite thing that I do, period, is my podcast. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. I would recommend anybody do it. Just like I'd recommend anybody go follow Spencer at spencer.lodge. Folks, until next time, share this out. Maybe somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to see it because we're on YouTube as well. And until next time, keep it real.